Hello and welcome back to the Outside View Live. We are looking ahead to the third and final ODI between England and India. It's going to be played at the county ground in Worcester, and signs at the moment are not very bright because it's gloomy. The pitch is under cover. There was drizzle earlier, so we probably might have a delayed toss, is what I think at the moment. But weather in England, you can never know. Remember, it's the 1200th ODI in the women's game, so that's a small kind of milestone as we look ahead to the third and final ODI on this uh, India tour of England. And I have with me to discuss the build-up, Vanitha VR and Ananya Upendran. Hello, Vanitha. Let's start with you first. Do you let's get to it. Do you see any changes that India might make? Because it could be that the game is curtailed. There will be interruptions because of rain. So your thoughts on what the day could be like for India?
See, even if it's 45 overs or even say about 42 overs also, I don't mind playing the same team because the kind of bowlers that we have varieties. And also we have bowlers who's experienced also at the top. So even if it's like a curtailed game, I don't see any changes from the bowling department. I don't see for any call for it. But if it's below 40 or 30 overs, then yes, you might need somebody bowling those block hole balls or a yorker in terms of paces, fast bowlers. And when you look at the spin department, I feel you need somebody to bowling, tighter length, because they have the tendency of actually coming down at you very hard. And we saw that in the last game, how they were using their feet against the spinners as well. So there might be a little bit of change in bowling. If it's below 30, I feel that there should be a bit of change, but otherwise, I feel the bowling department is quite settled now. And batting, more or less, it's the same. You don't have somebody even in the sitting at the bench, somebody who can actually go and accelerate your scoring rate. But I feel batting also should remain the same, going by what the conditions and the situation is going to be ahead for the game.
Yeah, India have lost the first two ODIs. That overall it's a multi-format series, so where they are trailing 6-2 to England, Ananya. But we saw a very improved bowling performance from India. So do you think they'll be comfortable with that lineup even despite the weather around, or you think they'll be playing the cards close to their chest?
Well, they always play their cards close to their chest. Don't they make changes that we do not, or we cannot predict. So I won't be surprised if they do that again. But I think, like you said, the bowling attack did do well in the previous game. They all kind of stepped up and really, made that chase a lot more difficult than it could have been for England. We saw them saunter to an 8-wicket win in the first game, but I thought in the second ODI, the pacer started off very well, and it was great to see Poonam Yadav in the wickets again. You could see that relief on her face. So I think they should ideally stick to the same bowling group. If it's not a hugely curtailed game, if it's even around 37 overs, I think the same group makes sense. It would be nice to see Pooja Vastrakar in the mix, but again, it's a case of how do you make room for her. So if it's overcast conditions, we have seen India kind of lean towards the third seamer, but it's a case of do you then trust her to bowl as many overs as you would trust a Sneh Rana to bowl. So I'm not going to make any predictions for India because they always do something else.
Indeed, and like why we are hearing right now that the toss is indeed delayed. There's an inspection that is scheduled for 11:15 local time, which is about half an hour, 40 minutes from where we are right now, which is 3:45 p.m. Indian time. So that is when the inspection is scheduled to happen. Remember, there's no rain around, so that's one of the brighter things that we can probably look forward to. But the center is under covers, gloomy skies, so that's what we are hearing at the moment. But we'll keep this chat alive. And we can talk one interesting aspect, Vanitha, of the wicket keeping, because we've seen how good Tanya Bhatia has been behind the stump. She's really done it with the gloves. Even Shikha Pandey praised her yesterday in the pre-match press conference. But there's always, you want more from your wicket keepers, don't you? You want them to contribute with the bat. Is that where Tanya Bhatia is a bit on the back foot?
No, I don't see. See, honestly, whatever game going by our debut, we've been following every game that girl has contributed to the team, be it keeping or majorly keeping. And at times whenever she's gone into bat, she's tried her best because the situation that she's walked into bat has been like that. that either you have to save the game or just go about, bang, bang, go at 200 strike rate. It's not possible for somebody who's had a batting which is so unsettled for a while now. And now it's only from 2 games we're seeing a batting at a consistent order, and you can't just jump directly at it and say, okay, listen, we need runs from you. But look at the other side, that the kind of contribution that she is doing. I think she's plus 20, 30 for you on the field. And also she's actually a wicket taker for you, basically. That's what I put it across in a better sense, because she's helping the bowlers get a wicket, and she's also helping the opponents, distract their plans, cut down their plan of attack. So it plays a huge factor. It's not just about contributing, with the bat or with the ball. It's about tactically also somebody helping you on the field. I feel it's a plus bonus for you. I don't see anything wrong in actually, Tanya's batting as of now, because her intent is good. As of now, her intent is good. She's looking much better than what she was a year ago, walking with a lot of confidence. I think it's just about time that, the more that girl bats into the center, the more she's been backed by the management, and belief is what we are looking at. See, I'll give you an example of Rishabh Pant also. There was a tendency where people criticized him for throwing his bat for every shot that he played. And over a period, he said that as a trend. He said, see, listen, this is how I know how to score runs. And after a point, once he started scoring runs, people's perspective changed. Likewise, you have to, but again, for him to do that, somebody continued with him for some time. He was continued for a while, and the management showed faith. And I'm hoping that I see that the management is backing Tanya also here. Likewise, I said, I won't be surprised that she's, or I wouldn't say that surprised. I'm confident that she'll be continued, because going forward, you need your right set of people behind the stump, and she's made a difference last match. I can tell you that the kind of plan of attack that England were going, and the way she came forward, keeping up to stumps for pace, is not a joke. And Pacer itself has admitted that. That has always been a plus point right from the age childhood. Literally, I've seen that she's been fearless, and that you rarely see among women cricketers who standing up to the stump. I think we need to back that somebody who's got a special skill. I think we need to back that, and that's what I'm looking forward from the Indian team, and the management, that they will continue to back her for a while.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree about the fact that it requires a bit of spark to stand up to the stumps as a wicketkeeper against seamers. But Ananya, there's also but if not Tanya Bhatia, there is Indrani Roy, who's made the right noises to kind of earn that national call-up first up. So there's always that pressure. Even though Tanya Bhatia is young, she's been pushed to the wall. She scored a 40 in that test match. But otherwise, when your batting fails, you need an extra resource. Is that where you pick an Indrani Roy, or is there enough time for Indrani Roy to still play cricket?
Look, I think I said this in our squad analysis. I'm very, very thrilled that Indrani Roy has made this side. I mean, she's scored a bucket load of runs to come in, so it's well deserved. But if you are, like India is right now, going to bat your keeper at 8, you very honestly should not be expecting them to average 25-30, because they are going to go in extreme situations, either where they have to score at a strike rate, like Vanitha said, of 150-200, or whether they'll have a long time to bat. So it's really, really harsh on us. And we are a batting country, I understand that. So you're always going to be looking for weight of runs. You're not looking at these contributions that cannot be quantified. But if you're going to bat your keeper at 8, I think even Indrani Roy will be wasted. And you will then, I'd rather you play your better keeper. And we've all admitted this, that Tanya Bhatia is the best keeper in India at the moment. There is no one there competing with her in terms of, her glove work. She is easily the best keeper in India. So if you're going to bat your keeper at 8-1, you play your best keeper. But as far as Indrani Roy is concerned, yes, I'm thrilled that she made this side, but I think I'm not convinced by her keeping yet. She is a very good batter. She's a very attacking batter, but does she have the skill to stand up to the stumps? Because these are tactical decisions that you have to make against sides like England. I'm not convinced by it, what little I've seen of her. I don't think she herself is confident doing it. So do you want to expose her to a situation where it could potentially dent your confidence? So if you play her as a batter, fair enough. But I don't think she is yet good enough to place Tanya and bat at number 8.
Yeah, I like the last question that you kind of posed, which I'm going to expand upon. Vanitha, you can probably weigh in. Is there a case or is there a chance in this Indian setup that both Indrani Roy and Tanya Bhatia feature in the 11?
Absolutely not, because see, I've personally seen Indrani Roy for about 3 seasons now. We've played against them quite a lot in the domestic setup. That girl is actually good. She plays fearless cricket, no doubt about it. But in international, it's completely different. The pressure first is that pressure gets to you. Somebody, I'm a firm believer that don't put somebody directly into the international setup, or expose them directly straight away. Allow them to grow in that environment. Allow them to soak in it, feel it, absorb it, and that's when they'll learn. And I have seen cricketers growing up like that. For example, Poonam Yadav is one extreme example. She was someone who just didn't get to play in the 11 directly. She was in the setup for some time and gradually grew over a period, with the right kind of pace. And eventually she picked it up. She become a number one bowler. Likewise, somebody who's just coming in, and don't directly jump, because I have seen players walking in as quickly, and the going back also as with the same pace. They walk in and walk out very quickly, and we don't want to see somebody like that. Somebody especially who scored a lot of runs in domestic, a skill specialist or a specialist batter. I feel you need to give some time for them to grow in that environment, be around, absorb, rather than just throw or put that person into that competitiveness. And because see, failure is something which is always there. There's no guarantee that one would succeed, but at least there is guarantee that someone would grow over years. And this is what I'm looking at, in terms of Indrani. I feel we need to groom her right now than just throw her directly and say, okay, listen, this is the reputation we have, or this is the expectation we have, and we wanted to live up to it. And eventually that girl will end up ruining it for herself. She'll try to live up to the expectation that has been created by the atmosphere, and that's not something what we want now, the cricketer to go through. We want her to grow over time. We want her to grow in her own pace. She will grow because eventually she's got the runs behind her back, and that runs under her belt. That will back her. That will give her ample amount of confidence in terms of actually to go about, and how she needs to move forward. But I think we need to slow down a bit in terms of exposing Rani this early, I feel.
And just if I can kind of butt in here, I think the other thing is with keepers, and we've seen this a lot in the recent past with Indian keepers, is that, for example, I think one person who stands out to me is R. Kalpana, right? R. Kalpana, drafted into the side, Vanitha was part of that team, had not done an India camp, had never kept to Jhulan Goswami in the nets. You throw her directly into an international match. She is a very good keeper, but that series against New Zealand was a nightmare for her. I don't know how many catches she dropped. So you don't want to throw these girls who are very good players into an environment where they have never been in, and then see them fail there. And then Kalpana played a couple of series, got dropped after that. So it's just, we're so, I think we need to protect players a little more. I understand that, you want to see them at international level, but we have seen that the jump for Indian players is a lot more than it is for the Australians. So Annabelle Sutherland coming in and looking like she's at home at international level is because she's played 3 or 4 years of WBPL. She's played with Mignon Dupree. She's played with Liz Ellie. She understands what's required. We haven't. Our domestic structure isn't that strong. We have very good players, but you need to give them time. So if you give Indrani Roy a couple of years at India A level, she plays there, does well there, is part of a lot of camps with these players. It's just the comfort level that you want to give them before they make that jump.
Yeah, very, very valid points. This because we have this debate of Tanya Bhatia versus Indrani Roy. Just because there's a new player or a younger player, we probably would not have this much chatter around it had it been someone else like Sushma Verma or the senior players. So it's always been the case, whether it be in women's cricket in this department or with the men's cricket in Saha versus Rishabh Pant debate. Let's move to the other side now. Let's look at England now, Vanitha. Lauren Winfield-Hill has been opening the batting for England in ODIs in this series. She was kind of given the confidence from Heather Knight, but it's not almost certain that she will be a part of the England 11 always in the ODIs. So how much and how does a player in that sense play? Because we've seen her scores of 42 and a 10 or 12 in that first 2 ODIs. So how does she kind of work towards being consistent when she doesn't have a consistent spot in the 11?
See, look, I clearly remember before Ethan had picked up the captaincy. I mean, before she was handed over the captaincy, she was averaging somewhere around 17 in her international career. I clearly remember that. And, even she was on and off, she was so inconsistent. But what I really liked about England's setup so far is that they continue with their players for longer time. They give them a long rope. They, and especially when you know you have the potential, especially when you have the kind of range of shots that you need at the top of the level to dominate the batting. That's what England is looking at. They're not looking at players for just one series. It's hardly very rare changes we've seen. Player just walking in for a series and then never come back. And with clearly with how England setup is, they continue the players for a while. They give them a good 6 months or a good 3-4 series before they decide on things, or before they would like to change on things. And that's why exactly you see a lot of cricketers coming up from England who's playing fearless cricket. If we have to talk about another player from England side, is going to be Amy Jones. She hasn't been among those runs, top consistent scorer, but every 5 match once is all you see her getting some runs. And but overall, you look at it, they're backing their players, and that's what I feel they will continue to do. They might shuffle with the batting order a little bit here, and they're trying to get the best batting spot for their players. That's simply to bring the best out of the players and not anything else, because every player in the team, in England team, they believe that they can actually win games. And that's the kind of brand of cricket that they're playing right now. The kind of brand that they're displaying is fearless. And they keep talking about it, saying that we want to play fearless cricket. And that's the exact approach that they're trying to do. And when you have a mindset of being fearless, you don't mind actually trying to experiment things. Either you send the batter opening or number 5, it doesn't matter, because the approach is being fearless. End of the day, you will end up doing well. You will end up doing well, because it's not just one player who has that attitude. It's the entire unit who feels that you're fearless. So going back to Winfield, I feel she's got brilliant shots. I mean, the kind of shots that she's played, or the kind of shots that she's displaying, is fabulous. It's just about time that she gets spend some time. We all know that the more time you spend at the center, you gradually grow and evolve as a better player. Every game you evolve, and you overcome certain things that you struggled in the previous games. And that's what I'm looking at this setup also. I'm confident that she will come good in the coming matches.
Yeah, you mentioned about being fearless, irrespective of where you bat, and that's where it's almost like spilt milk, where it flows to the area where the inclination is. And I'm again coming back to India's batting, because we've seen players in this Indian 11 who are used to batting in the top order for their domestic team, and they are having to adapt when they play for India. Like, for example, Tanya Bhatia again opens or plays in the top order for Punjab. We've seen that with Indrani Roy as well. So does it reflect poorly on the players that they are not able to translate the domestic success at the international stage?
See, look, unfortunately, because of various things, we are not having that in between level of India A, or even a challenger series where the competition is, better off. See, it's something which I feel it's not controllable completely, because every opener from the side ends up scoring, and they score big and lot. So it is also another factor how good our opening is, how good our new ball players is. But the whole problem lies here is when somebody is pushed down the order. For example, Deepti Sharma is an opener, right? So when she was opening, her strike rate also was better. When she was opening, her average also was much better when she was batting up the order. As she kept, as she was pushed down, you see her gradually declining in terms of her form, or in terms of her average, or in terms of her strike rate. That's simply because there is a time where the adaptability and getting adjusted to the pace of the ball gets a little difficult, because you're so used to playing with the harder new ball, and the ball coming onto the bat really well. So all you have to do is just time it. But whereas a middle order, it's actually, middle order for me is very skillful, because you really have to generate a lot of things, be it your footwork, be it the power that you generate, or be tactical, laterally moving around the crease, and playing, accessing all part of the grounds. It's not easy. It's not at all easy playing that role. That is one area. I'm sure BCCI is also trying to find middle order spot. I mean, I'm talking about the selectors. They're also trying their best to actually spot some middle order bats. And even if they spot, also they're hardly able to, see somebody sustaining at that level. That is simply because of invariable performances from our team is causing a lot of access in the middle order also. I personally feel that. But look, if we have to find middle order, you have to be patient again, and that's what Indian team is trying to show right now, I feel, because no matter how much failures they've had in the past, they're continuing with the same batting unit because they know these guys are the ones who will have to do the job for us, coming forward. You can't just sit and say okay, and or sit and break your head saying okay, we don't have the pool or the talent, but whatever little we have, these players can always adjust to it. It's about how you keep them at that atmosphere, at that environment, and allow them to grow and try and experiment. Because I have seen some better players, over the years. They have started as an opener, but they've ended up being good middle order and lower middle order bat. So it's all about giving them the space and the environment to grow and say, listen, we are backing you no matter what. You see any player for that matter, you walk up to her and say, don't worry about anything, we'll play the next 3 games. That confidence, it gives you, or does something incredible to you within. You go out there and you'll be like fearless because you're not worried about being dropped. That's the most number one factor what runs in a cricketer's mind, or for the matter what runs in anybody's mind. That you want to go out there and you're scared whether if you play any fall shot, if you make or commit any error, you'll be made to sit out. And if that fear has been taken out from the middle order, right, saying that okay, listen, you go out there, you bat according to the plan and situation, because they have ample amount of time to sit and assess the game and adapt. So the management, I'm sure they're doing their job. It's not that they're not. The management is sure on top of it, saying that okay, we are backing you, and that's what needs at this point in time, rather than saying okay, what is that, where are the players. Instead of having that conversation, I think we need to look into the um, source that we have and try and utilize and bring the best out of the players that we have currently right now at the moment.
Right. Let's again come back to England. They are comfortably sitting at 6 points in this series as opposed to India's two. Ananya, we've seen them clearly comfortably win the first two ODIs, and they did well in the Test match also. What do you think have they done right, and what are some of the learnings that probably India can take looking at them?
Well, since we've spoken a lot about the batting, I'm going to look at this from a bowling point of view. And I think one of the things that England have done superbly, not so much in the Test match, but through the two ODIs, is just the way they've planned to each batter. And you can see that Anya Shrubsole spoke about this yesterday as well, about how each individual bowler, creates plans according to their strengths and weaknesses, and figures out what they want to do against each Indian batter. And you can just see that in the way that both Shrubsole and Cross bowl to Smriti Mandana. The fact that they've kept their lines so straight, they've made her sweat on that cut shot. She scores a lot of runs, through backward point, cover point areas. And England have only given her one boundary through that area. Most of her runs have come on the leg side. So you can see a lot of planning in the lines they bowl, the lengths they bowl. Shafali Verma as well hasn't been allowed to camp on the front foot. We saw through that T20 World Cup, she scored a lot of runs down the ground. So I just think it's the simple things that they've done right. They've had, Deepti Sharma's release shot to deep mid-wicket. They've had fielders there consistently. So they've just planned a lot better. And I don't think India have done that. You can see Sophia Dunkley, we saw her score 74 runs in that Test match. She scored 73 runs in that ODI, very, very similar areas. So you can just see that India aren't adapting as quickly as they could. And I think that's slightly surprising with, considering the amount of footage, the amount of data available these days. I think in England are just using all that information a lot better and also executing superbly. I mean, it's one thing to have a plan, but then it's another thing completely to be able to execute it to a T. And England have done that very, very well.
Does it also hamper that India don't have extra bowling options, Ananya? Because we've seen that it's the same set of bowlers who are kind of going in, coming out, and they also have limited options. Whereas in England, you could almost throw the ball to anybody and they'll kind of turn up on their door. Is that also something that's hampering India?
Well, yes and no. See, I think the thing is, when you have a plan and you have someone who's able to execute the plan, I don't think it matters how many people you have, how many other options you have. Of course, if plans aren't working, it is always valuable to have other options. But I think that at least what's visible from the outside is India don't have very clear plans to each batter. One of the things that did work very well, and Shikha Pandey spoke about this in the PC yesterday, where she said that it was a tactical decision to bring Tanya Bhatia up to the stumps. So they do have plans clearly, but they're reactive plans. I don't think these are things that are being discussed in the dressing room prior to them coming out. And that's the major difference. It's that they are seeing what's happening and reacting to it rather than going in with a certain plan and then evolving or updating that on the field.
Right then, we are building up to the third ODI between England and India. It's not the best of starts at the New Road County Ground in Worcester. This is the first time that the women will play an ODI at this venue. Not the best of starts. The rain has meant that there's a delay. The inspection is about 15 to 18 minutes from where we are right now. So we'll just press pause to this conversation here on the Outside View Live. We'll come back after the toss and discuss the teams and then put Vanitha as well as Ananya on the spot with their predictions. So see you after the toss, and let's everybody of us have our fingers crossed so that we can see the toss and then come back live to discuss all that on more on the Outside View Live.